Hello my beautiful kittens. As usual, we're going to be doing a video for the whales. This video we're going to be comparing Navia's Constellations to her weapon and her weapon refinements. We're going to see which of them is worth it and like the priority of which you should go between them, so you can know if you want to spend on her, at least the right way to do it. So yeah, let's begin. Alright, so starting off with your signature weapon, we're going to review it later in a separate video, but for now, all you need to know is that when you get it, this weapon is going to give you a super high base attack, it's going to give you attack, and then it's going to give you elemental skill damage bonus, and also crit rate from the substat. So obviously, all of these are going to be pretty good for Navia. It's also definitely going to be her best in slot weapon. How much damage you're going to gain from getting this weapon is going to depend obviously on which weapon you had before. So for most 5 stars, it's like a huge like generalization, but it's going to be around like a 5% damage increase, maybe a little more, or also maybe a little less. I did a weapons tier list before if you want to check it out. So if you have like an S tier or A tier weapon, the damage increase is going to be around like 5 to 10%. If you don't have a very good weapon, you can get the event 4-star weapon that's going to be coming out. And from that weapon, our 5 to damage increase is going to be around 18%. So that's like the worst weapon you can have. You cannot really have any weapon worse than that because it's going to be free at the event. And from that weapon, the signature is going to be better by 18%. So that's probably like the max value you're getting out of the signature, I can say. Honestly, I would say it's an average signature, really. It's definitely not bad, but it's nothing really special. It's not like necessary to play Navia or anything like that. It's also very consistent, which is good. But other than that, it's definitely not, you know, necessary or anything. The refinements on this weapon from R1 to R5, you're gonna gain around a 15% damage increase, which is around like 4% per refinement or something like that. Also average for any signature weapon, pretty much. So that's all about her weapon. Now let's move on to her constellations. Alright, so C1 is that for every sharpnel you consume when doing your elemental skill, it's going to give you back some energy and also decrease the cooldown of your elemental burst up to a maximum of 3 sharpnels, so you can have a maximum of 9 energy and also a 3-second cooldown decrease from your elemental burst. So it's just like more burst uptime in general, you can say, more energy and then less burst cooldown. That's it. Obviously there's no like actual damage increase from this constellation, but it's just going to lower your energy requirements. It's going to allow you to focus more on damage on your build, which obviously might result in more damage, but it's not consistent. I can't tell you like how much damage you're gonna get. It's just gonna lower your energy requirements. 9 energy can be pretty good. It might lower your energy requirements by quite a bit for some teams, up to like 30 or 40% maybe even, but in some teams it won't be necessary, so it heavily depends. But generally it's also kind of difficult to have like a battery on her, so C1 might be definitely worth it in some cases, but generally speaking as like a constellation value, it really depends. So C1 worth it or not? Honestly, I'd say it's good, but it also depends. In some like teams, you definitely won't need it at all. It's just gonna be useless. But in some teams, it definitely can help you out a lot with your build, which means more damage and you're gonna be more comfortable. Definitely not necessary, and it's definitely not like a great of a constellation, but it's only because it's C1 and it's like more of a comfortability constellation. I'd say it's not bad. Yeah, I think not bad is the right word. Again, especially because it's C1. Could have been better, but it's not bad. C2 is pretty much just going to increase the crit rate and give extra damage to your elemental skill. Obviously, your elemental skill is your, main source of damage. So it's going to be pretty good to guarantee that your elemental skill crits. So yeah, that's pretty much it for C2. It's just extra damage, really. It's going to give you around 10% damage on average. The thing is that you're still going to need to build crit anyways. It's not like it's going to allow you to not build crit and then focus on something else or anything like that. You're still going to need crit for your elemental bursts and your normal attacks and stuff like that. So it's just going to give you more crit rate on your elemental skill. In a lot of cases, you might even like overcap, so the value of crit is going to drop a little bit, but it's still pretty decent. A 10% damage increase, I would say it's also decent, nothing really special, but it's not bad. Now C3 is going to increase the level of your elemental skill. As I said, it's your main source of damage, so it's just higher multipliers, more damage, that's it. It's going to also result in around a 10% damage increase or something around that. Also, it's there, it's just damage increase. For C3, honestly, I don't really think it's that good, but hey, it's just damage increase. That's it. Can't be bad. C4 is going to decrease the geo resistance of enemies after you hit them with your elemental bursts. Obviously, that's going to result in more damage from you when you do geo damage because they're going to have less resistance. Generally, it's going to be around like a 6% damage increase overall. And also another thing is that she's going to become like a very good sub DPS support for other geo DPSs. So if you have a geo main DPS, you can use Navia with him now, and she's going to be decreasing the geo resistance and also being a very good sub DPS. So it's going to make her sub DPS potential for Geos like very high. Again, it's a cool constellation. For C4, I would say it's kind of expensive, so I wouldn't really say it's worth it, but it's cool. It's also cool. C5 is going to increase the level of your elemental bursts. Not really a huge part of your damage anyways. It's going to result in around like a 3% overall damage increase, which is kind of insignificant. For C5 alone, it's definitely not worth it. You might want to go for it if you want to go for C6, but for C5 alone, definitely skip. C6 is pretty much just going to give you extra crit damage for the extra shards you consume when you use your elemental skill. And then also it's going to give you back these extra shards. So it's going to be even more easier to get extra shards for your next skill. Just, you know, a cycle that's going to fuel itself, which is pretty good. It's just going to enhance like her playstyle pretty much. It's going to be around like a 19% damage increase, which is good for C6, but it's not like exceptional or anything like that. It's not going to change her. But for C6, it's definitely not bad. You're just going to be getting extra crit damage, which is pretty good. Alright, so now for the final conclusion, how should you go about wishing for Navia? Should you go weapon, constellations, or, you know, we'll see. So right off the bat, honestly, I would say just nothing, to be honest. I mean, she's one of those characters where you won't really get as much value from spending on her. Obviously, you will have like, you know, a C6 R5 Navia is going to be better than like a C0, you know, R1 or something like that. But it's not like a big difference that's going to justify spending that much money, to be honest. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. She's just one of those characters who doesn't scale well with like constellations and weapons. So if you want to take my advice, I would just say go free to play Navia. That's it. But that's not what we're here for. If you want to spend anyways, I would say definitely start by getting her weapon. The value again is going to depend on which weapons you had before, but generally it's a good weapon, and overall it's even like a good general weapon, so it's good value for your account probably. So you might start with getting her refinement 1 weapon. The thing is, it's not because like her weapon is exceptional or anything like that. It's just because her constellations are not that good. That's it. So that's why I recommend going for the weapon first. After R1, I definitely wouldn't recommend getting like refinements. It's just not worth it. For most weapons, it's not worth it. Definitely in this case, it's not worth it too. I would say just go for C1 then C2. That's a very good point to stop in. I would say you can go for constellations up to like C3 or C4 at this point. So from like C1 to C4, you're gonna be getting things like gradually. You won't really see any big jumps in damage or anything like that, but you're gonna get like slightly better each constellation. So you can stop wherever you want. I told you the damage increases, you can decide. C5 is gonna suck, so if you're not going for C6, you definitely want to skip C5. And yeah, C6 is also gonna be a cool constellation, nothing special, but if you want to go for it, then also 19% damage increase, it's gonna be cool, I guess. After C6, you can refine the weapon too. That's kind of the roadmap. As I said, it's definitely not worth it, so you don't want to really spend too much, even if you want to invest in her a little bit. A good point to stop, I'd say, is gonna be like R1, then C2 or C3, and then that's it. I'd say that's a reasonable point if you want to invest in her a little bit. We're gonna gain some good constellations, more damage, more comfortability with C1. With the weapon, stuff like that, you're definitely gonna be dealing decent damage, so it's a good point to stop. I'd say the sweet spot is gonna be like R1, C3 or C2. But hey, again, if you want to R5, C6, then all the luck to you. Good luck. Just make sure to subscribe to the channel and see you guys in the next video. Peace.